The Arthur Godfrey Talent Scout show I thought was going to be my undoing. Actually, it was a great boon, if I may say. My name Boone means blessing, by the way. Like the king granted a boon to his subjects, or so-and-so is a boon to his profession. We won't get into boondoggle right here, or boondocks. I think Billy Joe Royal had the
down in the boondocks.
Yeah, down in the boondocks. But I think that's the absence of blessing is what that is. But anyway, I had done my last appearance. I know it was the 3-time winner appearance, which was my last appearance on Ted Mack. I had to wait from Saturday till at least Thursday to know who was going to be named the winner. And they told me later I was leading handsomely in the voting. But while I was waiting, I'd seen the Arthur Godfrey Talent Scout show. So I went over to CBS, asked if I could audition for that. I was alone in New York City. And so I was ushered into a studio, big old cold TV studio, and a woman I met, but she went into the control room and had an engineer, and so I couldn't even see her. I'm just standing alone in the bare studio with a mic. She says, "Sing us something." So I sang, "Blue Moon, you saw me standing alone," you know. And she said, "Nice, can you come back in 3 weeks?" I said, "Oh, no, I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm going home maybe Thursday." And my wife's expecting a baby, and so I'll have to go home. She said, "Okay, we'll put you on tonight." Really? So now you have to have a talent scout, somebody to introduce you, somebody that knows you. Well, I didn't know anybody in New York, but I called home and got a friend of our high school principal. Actually, it was his sister-in-law. And she came on the show that night with Arthur Godfrey, introduced me. I sang, "I Think I Believe." And I had a little New Testament in my pocket, hoping for a 3-way tie, as I'd seen happen on that show. They had a couple other, extremely talented people. And for some reason, the applause meter went like this, and Arthur Godfrey says, "Pat, you're our winner." So I get for that the next 4 mornings on his radio show. Well, of course, it hadn't occurred to me, but you can't be declared a winner of a talent show on Saturday when you've been declared a professional winner on the previous Monday. And so I was disqualified from the Ted Mack show. They said I would have won it, and that came with a scholarship. All I got for appearing on Godfrey's show at that time was 4 mornings on his morning show, and then back to Denton. Stopped off in Nashville, met Randy Wood of Dot Records, who said, "I think you ought to make a record for our little aggressive record company." Going back to Denton, and when we find a song I think will be a hit, I'll call you. 8 months went by, so I thought, hey, he's forgotten all about it. But in March of '55, he did call and said, "I've got a song for you. I'll send you the ticket. Meet me in Chicago. Let's make a hit," which we did. Arthur Godfrey it's kind of, bigger than life personality. He literally ruled radio and television for a while. His show was the biggest show, not just on his morning show 5 days a week, and every woman in America practically was tuned to him on radio, which was simulcast with his TV show. Every day, he was just a member of the family, and he wore so well because he had a little bit of naughtiness about him, but he was funny, and he was wise, and there was something in that voice and his demeanor. Everybody wanted to know him. Men loved him, and women, and kids. So then he did a Monday night talent scout show, which was big, and then a Wednesday night hour, a variety hour, and of course I was on that a lot because I became a regular on his show. He was kind of a Renaissance man in that he was up to speed and up to date on all the technology of radio and TV, but also flying. He became not only a great pilot, had his own plane, but and he was a dear friend of Curtis LeMay, General LeMay, head of the Strategic Air Command, and actually Arthur was able to fly the biggest jets and biggest planes that existed at the time, though his own private plane was a DC-3. I'd noticed when he smoked a cigar, all 5 fingertips were on the cigar. When he flew, all 5 fingertips were on the stick of the wheel, at the end of the stick of the plain. He was a tactile man. He was hands-on. He was very curious about everything, very interested, great sense of humor, and he appreciated loyalty. So when he fired Julius Rosa on the air, it was because Julius had demonstrated to him a lack of loyalty or appreciation. He was now taking Arthur for granted, who had hired him on the air and gave him a career. And he fired him on the air, which was a terrible thing for Arthur, because his popularity began to diminish after that. I came along after Julius, and he never had a contract with anybody. I went from week to week. The McGuire sisters and Tony Marvin and Carmel Quinn and Holly Loki and Frank Park, all of them were just week to week. I would finish a week on his morning show after I became a regular. As a former winner, he would, his producer, Frank Musiello, would say, "See you Monday." Or if he didn't, I would say, "Do you want me to come in Monday?" "Oh, yeah." And so it was that week to week for about a year and a half. And I went in to see him one day after the show, because he knew I was very loyal and I always brought new songs, and we had a lot of rapport. I would set him up for some of his funny jokes, and he appreciated that. And I went in to see him in his office after the show, and I said, "Mr. Godfrey, I'd like to ask for a little leave of absence." "Why?" I said, "Well, I've got a chance to go to Hollywood and make a movie." "You? Make a movie?" I said, "Yes." So he said, "Well, go ahead, make the movie, and then come back and tell us what it's like, all right?" And so because I asked his permission, I came back after making the movie and was on a few more times. When I graduated from Columbia, he gave me a beautiful Tiffany watch to Pat Boone for cum laude, because I graduated magna cum laude. And he appreciated the fact that I was a family guy, that I was diligent. I was very appreciative of the exposure he was giving me, and I really tried to give him my best ever.